I think that what he can't do and what he hasn't been able to do based on everything on the battlefield is he hasn't been able to make any progress. In 4 years, he's lost 1.2 million soldiers, either to death or disability, and he's gained something like 1% of the territory of Ukraine above and beyond what he had before. And so this is a total failure for Vladimir Putin.
Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky has warned that Russian President Vladimir Putin is planning a massive attack ahead of Sunday's peace talks. It says a new study shows that Russian forces have suffered the heaviest battlefield losses the world has seen since World War II during its invasion of Ukraine. So how is the war in Ukraine really going for Vladimir Putin? Joining us now is Sir Bill Browder, head of the Global Magnitsky Justice Campaign and high-profile Kremlin critic. Welcome to The Times at 1. First of all, how hopeful are you for the talks?
I'm very unhopeful. I don't think that there's any chance that they will succeed for the simple reason that Putin has no interest in ending this war. The war is a war of distraction. He needs a war in order to have the Russian people not get angry with him, but be angry at a foreign enemy. And any talk of a peace deal is our wishful thinking on our side, on the Ukrainian side, but not on his side.
I mean, he's not doing very well, though, is he, if you look at the stats in terms of the number of Russian soldiers killed and wounded?
That's absolutely right. But the one thing that you have to understand is that Vladimir Putin doesn't care about his casualties. He's a sociopath, if not a psychopath, and for him, losing soldiers is just a number on a piece of paper. It's not somebody's father or son or brother. It's just a number on a piece of paper. And so, from his perspective, he's just grinding down his own resources in the hopes that we're going to capitulate before he does.
And is that the case with this talk of strikes ahead of any discussion at the weekend?
Well, what he's hoping to do with all these strikes is, since he can't gain any more territory coming into Ukraine, all he can do is try to humiliate, demoralize, and terrorize regular Ukrainians in the hopes that by doing so, that puts pressure on the government to just give up, to surrender. And the reason for the strikes is to get rid of the thermal power plants so the Ukrainians don't have any heat or hot water or even electricity. And he's hoping that to basically freeze the Ukrainians personally, all of them, so that they just lose the will to fight. But I think that what he can't do and what he hasn't been able to do based on everything on the battlefield is he hasn't been able to make any progress. In 4 years, he's lost 1.2 million soldiers, either to death or disability, and he's gained something like 1% of the territory of Ukraine above and beyond what he had before. And so this is a total failure for Vladimir Putin, and all he can hope for is the political intervention, perhaps a pressure from Donald Trump on the Ukrainians, or perhaps the Ukrainians just giving up because they're too cold in the winter to win this war because it's not working on the battlefield.
Right, but that might work, mightn't it? The war of attrition, if you like, particularly if he doesn't have public opinion. And let's talk a little bit about that in a moment. Public opinion to worry about.
In a certain way, that's true. But what he does have to worry about is money.
Yeah.
Vladimir Putin he needs money to fight this war. He needs money to hire soldiers. He needs money to buy weapons. And as time goes on, his money is dissipating. He's lost a lot of money. His assets in the foreign central banks are frozen. The Indians and the Chinese are now paying a much lower price for Russian oil. And so he's on the ropes. It's just a question of who blinks first. And you're right, because he's a dictator, he doesn't have to care about public opinion, but he also, at some point, isn't going to be able to pay soldiers to become suicide missioners.
Well, that could focus minds when it comes to parts of public opinion in Russia. I mean, you were investment advisor to the Hermitage Fund, which was formerly the largest foreign portfolio investor in Russia. You say he may run out of money. I mean, how much money has he got? How long can he keep going for on that front?
Well, he's got as much money as the oil that his country exports can be sold to the Chinese, the Indians, and the Turks. There's basically 8 oil refineries that buy all the Russian oil, and we're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars. And if they continue to buy the oil at a decent price, then he can run this war into perpetuity. Now, what's happened is that as time has gone on, some of the oil refineries are not buying it, some of the Indian ones. You're finding the Ukrainians attacking the what they call the shadow fleet, these old oil transportation tankers that are moving that oil, and some of them are being either sunk or disabled. You're finding that some of those tankers are used not just for Russian oil, but for Venezuelan oil, and the Americans are grabbing some of those tankers. And then you also have the Ukrainians bombing oil refineries in Russia. So it's not a static situation. It's definitely not. It's not a binary situation either. It's not like yes or no. It's sort of, is he being degraded enough so that at some point he runs out of money? And the answer is, if we had the luxury of time, I'm sure that would be the case. But then on the other side is the Ukrainians shivering in their unheated apartments, and so it's hard to know how this thing plays itself out. My prediction is that we're sort of 5 or 6 weeks away from the change of temperature, and then we're back to where the Russians were before, which is that they continue to lose 1,000 soldiers a day as they're trying to bombard Ukrainian positions, and the Ukrainians kill them with drones.
Sir Bill Browder, head of the Global Magnitsky Justice Campaign and high-profile Kremlin critic.